Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is 10:34 April 16th, 2026. Hope everyone's doing good. So, yeah, I am pretty excited. I'll be going to on Friday. I'm going to be going to see a movie at the Waldorf Theater that I'm super excited to see. It's uh it's such a fantastic movie. I got a chance to see this quite a while
Exactly
ago.
that. My buddy's
Quite
like,
a
oh,
while
we have
ago.
a.
About well, it was actually during COVID. It was under some pretty wild circumstances. And the movie is sorry, I forgot the name of the movie. The movie is Fantastic Planet. I believe it's a French movie. I've only seen it once. It came out in 1973. It's a animated movie. It's I saw it during COVID during lockdown, and it was kind of the perfect thing to experience during that crazy, one of the most crazy and insane and surreal experiences I've ever had. Probably the most. So the movie was pretty fitting for that. It's great. It's fantastic. And I had heard about this movie before, and I had never seen it before. And then I found it on YouTube. But luckily, because it was during COVID, we had lockdown was going on. We also got hit by a pretty big snowstorm. I think a couple weeks or so after lockdown. So, and I remember I lost power for like a week and a half here at the house, and it was really cold, and it was god awful. And but I had my laptop before the storm came, and I had the power knocked out. I had my laptop luckily plugged in, so it was charged. So I had it charged for I don't know 24 hours or whatever it was, just enough juice, and I ended up watching this movie on YouTube for free. So I'm really really excited to see it on a big screen. It's an amazing film. So I'll definitely do, and it's at the Waldo Theater Friday. No wait, sorry, it's Saturday. This coming Saturday night at 7 o'clock. The Waldo After Theater is a really amazing venue. The series that it's a part of, it's the folks who run the Waldo After Dark. Sam and Buffy, really good friends, amazing people. Waldo After Dark is just an amazing series. They show mostly a lot of kind of B movies, exploitation movies, movies like this that are just not talked about enough. So very excited. So I'll definitely do a review of that movie, and I'm super excited to see it on the big screen because it's such a visual movie. And again, I've only seen it once, and it was like 4 or 5 years ago now, which is kind of fucked up. And I saw it on my laptop, so you know, so very very excited. As far as like new quantum shows or updates, I always like to give little updates or little shout outs for things that are happening. So I got some shows coming up. We're going to be doing a show that I'm really excited about. We're going to be playing at Lucia's Spirits in Rockland coming up. That's going to be coming up early, well, the first of next month actually, and then have have this kind of private party that's going to be actually at Opera House Video, which is kind of a fun thing I'm looking forward to. Then we're going to be doing our annual gig at the Camden Amphitheater, which is a gig I've done as Quantum for 10 years, which is crazy. I really love that space. It's an amazing venue. It's the Camden Amphitheater. It sits right on the water. It's outside. Beautiful acoustics. So we'll be doing that after at that point, and then working on a show hasn't solidified yet. Still working on the date right now. Got a few things kind of on the back burner that I'm trying to get squared away. But we'll be, and this is also another gig that we usually do every year as Quantum. Pretty much, pretty much every year for the last 6 or 7 years or so. We'll be back at some point at the Poor Farm in Union, which is a really sweet venue. It's pretty much, where we live here in Maine. If you like beer and, microbreweries, it's kind of the best place that there is. One of the things that I try to do a lot in my travels is because I've always thought like if you like really good beer and good food, and I've always thought Maine has like the best restaurants too, and I've always thought it has the best locally made brews and beers. One thing that I always do when I go out of town or do some traveling is I love to like sample the local beers or brews or go to brew pubs when I'm out of state. And then also sample food, pub food, whatever. And I have to say, 9 times out of 10, every time the food and drink, especially the beer, is better here in Midcoast, Maine. I think so. So, and pretty much my favorite brew pub, as far as like locally made beer, is the Poor Farm. I love that spot. I've gotten a chance over the years to play there a lot. Always love playing there. The last few years, it's always usually been a Quantum show, and I've played there with a few other bands over the years. I have another gig there. That's a definite thing. I think it's in July. We'll be playing there with another band that is kind of this newer project. Anyway, we I really love playing there. So we'll be back at the Poor Farm at some point this summer. And then there's another, speaking of kind of an alcohol place, or it's actually a kombucha or kombucha. I never know how to pronounce it. Bar it's in New Hampshire. I think that's where, yeah, it's in New Hampshire. Auspicious Brew, which is a really, really awesome venue. I played there last summer. We did a little mini tour with Osmia, and we played there. So we're going to be playing there as Quantum I think it's in August. That date is solidified, so very much looking forward to doing that. And then we will also be at Hey Sailor, which I'm really excited about. We're going to be it's going to be another show with the amazing Travis Lloyd, which I'm super excited about. We did a show together in December, right around Christmas time, and Travis Lloyd, I think, is just a phenomenal talent. So we'll be doing that, and I think that show is in July. And then we're going to be doing, or maybe, no, wait, that's in August, sorry. And then have another show at the Belfast Commons, which is kind of a newer venue. It's like an art space, kind of gallery, and then it's also a little venue. So we'll be definitely doing a show there in July, which I'm really excited about. And then I got some other things that are kind of, kind of on the table, still working out the details and trying to, get some other things happening. So I always love to give the little updates for what it's worth for the little weird band that I've had for about 10 years, Quantum. It will also be my first kind of go of it this year, because now, starting this year, it will be just me as Quantum. Mike Whitehead, who has played bass in the band since the inception for 10 years, has moved on to other projects. So I'm gonna, be just carrying it on, and trying to figure it out how to just do everything as a solo artist, but it will still be under the name of Quantum. So very, very excited to see how things work out. So very, very, very excited about these upcoming shows, and always trying to give some new updates. So, as far as movies go, I always go through these bouts of where I find movies, find little collections of movies that I haven't seen in years, or maybe I kind of, forgot about them. But generally, when I buy movies, I generally always watch them pretty much right after I buy them. I don't usually. There are collectors on YouTube who do these massive hauls of movies, and they just kind of like. I mean, they're obviously way into films, but a lot of the times they don't. They just buy these giant things of movies, and then they kind of just pack them away, and then they never watch them, which I don't. I never understand, and it does kind of annoy me. But anyway, I generally watch everything that I get, and most of the reviews on this channel are all about movies that I personally own. So I try to do that all the time. So, but before I get into today's movie, I kind of wanted to give a quick shout out and a little mention of to Matt Enos, who I did an interview with on Sunday. He's a writer, director, and actor. He has a new movie that came out, or it is kind of out. It's actually premiered last year at a Toronto Film Festival, and it's going to be showing at the main Underground Festival coming up in a couple weeks. So completely sold out, which is pretty amazing. I unfortunately did not get a ticket. I kind of slacked off. I forgot, and I didn't get on it quick enough. But I did see the screener of his movie, and I do own it, so or do have it, and that is Death Molester and the Barn of Blood, which is completely fucking insane. If you're into really low budget, really sleazy, funny gore fest films, exploitation movies, this movie is made for you. And I have a feeling all of the rest of the films that are going to be at the main underground festival, the main underground film festival, are all going to be kind of in that genre. So I did see Matt sent me a screener of that film, and it's completely insane. And I really want to thank Matt. We did an interview on Sunday. I went over to his house, and we did a pretty nice interview. He was fantastic. I really love doing interview segments. I'm trying to do more of those this year. And I want to thank the people who have been checking out the video. It's gotten a lot of, it's gotten a lot of hits and everything. And it's been a long time since I've gotten to do an interview for this channel. It's really my favorite thing to do. But obviously it's hard. It's hard putting them together sometimes because of scheduling. So, and I get sidetracked doing just regular videos, and I also get kind of lazy. So it's a bad combination. But it is legitimately due to scheduling things. I mean, that's been a big problem, or not a problem, but it's just kind of a normal thing that happens. So anyway, on to the movie and the topic at hand. So I was again going through my movies. I do this every now and then. I'll just like go through my movies. I'm trying to get the my movies set up, my shelving and all those things a little bit more kind of together, a little bit more organized. But in my little time that when I do those things, or in my travels, if you will, I always go through some of my movies, and then I find these little collections of movies, or I find a movie or two, and I'm like, man, I've only seen this once. A couple of times it's happened of where I got, because I get sidetracked. I have realized, man, I haven't even watched this yet. So I try to quickly remedy that and watch the film. And so I came across this not a box set, but I should say a compilation. And it looks pretty cheesy when you look at the cover, but it's actually really good. The movies are all really good quality. And it's the MGM movie collection. It's got 4 movies. It actually says 4 movies. 4 horror movies on the cover. I can't remember where the hell I got this. I've had this for a super long time, probably years. Yeah, I probably have had this even before I started buying Blu-rays. So I started buying Blu-rays about, 7 or 8 years ago. So I've had this probably longer, probably 10 years. But it's really good. So I got this out, and it's all great low budget horror exploitation movies. It has Return of the Living Dead, which is just a total masterpiece. I uploaded a video on that because I realized on some of these videos that I haven't really talked about any of these movies on this channel. I did do reviews for them. I way back when I first started doing, kind of video content stuff for Film Fanatic. I was doing I used to have, well, I still have it, but I don't really like Facebook. I think Facebook just kind of sucks. So I don't really use it. I only use Facebook really now for movies for well occasionally I'll post videos on YouTube or sorry on Facebook, but I generally Facebook's all fucked up and weird. But I use it for a little bit of promotion stuff, usually mainly for music stuff. But I don't really use it any outside of that. I barely ever use it because it's super weird. It's super uber weird. And if I didn't, if that, I use Facebook, I guess, mainly now out of necessity because it's a weird thing because it's the only way, as a fan of movies and obviously fan of music, when I want to find some things that are coming up that look really cool, that's the only way I know about it, or it's the only way I find out about it is through that. So, so there's that. If I didn't have a Facebook account or wasn't on Facebook or on Instagram, I would have no fucking clue that any of these shows are happening or any of these movies are happening. So it's weird. It's weird. But that I use it for that. And then when I have gigs or shows or things, I obviously use Facebook and Instagram for that. But other than that, I feel like Facebook should just be flushed down the toilet completely. So anyway, when I first got onto, doing social media stuff with Film Fanatic, I started out with doing my Film Fanatic page, which still exists, but I don't really post on it because I just feel like it doesn't really serve any kind of purpose right now. I just kind of do this. Just YouTube is just kind of what I do now, and it's easier, it's fun, and I feel like it's built up over time. I want to thank everybody who supported it. But when I was doing Facebook, just Facebook, I started doing these live videos around basically kind of the same thing that I do now. And it was a lot of fun. I did it for a few years, and I think I reviewed these movies on this 2 disc DVD collection. But I don't think have done any of these movies on this channel, which is kind of wild. So I have been going back. I watched all of these movies this week. I finished up with the last movie last night on here. There's 4 movies. There's Return of the Living Dead, Swamp Thing, Wes Craven's masterpiece from 1982, which I love that movie to death. Also, Bucket of Blood by Roger Corman, which I absolutely love. One of my favorite directors and writers in the world of exploitation. And today's show is going to be on 1973's Frogs, which is kind of an eco horror, if you will, exploitation movie that's just fucking awesome. So I'm going to be talking about that. But I realized because when I started watching this, I was like, oh, these movies would be really cool to probably review. But then I was like, or do a video on. But then I was like, no, I know I've covered these before. But then I looked to see if I did, and I realized I did, but on Facebook, but not on YouTube. So I uploaded a show on Return of the Living Dead, which is a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite zombie movies. It was directed and written by Dan O'Bannon, who is one of my favorite people in the world of films and cinema. Was he passed away in 2009, I believe, but amazing. Created, he was the writer and creator of Alien. So I did a show and I uploaded it this morning on just Dan O'Bannon and his amazing career that he had. So today's show is on frogs, which I'm really excited about. So I haven't. It was cool to realize I haven't done any videos on any of these movies. So really excited. The transfer of these movies is actually really good. I was really impressed. There's not a whole. Well, I take that back. Return of the Living Dead. There's a ton. There's actually a really good interview with Dan O'Bannon, and a really good documentary on the making of the Return of the Living Dead, which is really really good. The rest of the movies there aren't really any special features on, but the quality is really good. And I last night I watched Frogs, and Frogs is just it's fucking awesome. It's a really great movie. Total exploitation movie. It's pretty cheesy. It's kind of like when you look up movies like Frogs that that are movies, exploitation movies, horror movies that deal with like kind of environmental issues, if you will, like animals gone crazy and they turn on the humans. When you look up a lot of these movies and you look up frogs online or you do a Google search, it comes up as a eco like exploitation movie, which is kind of funny. Like a real low budget horror exploitation movie, but it has a social message about basically don't fuck up our environment because it's going to come back and bite us in the ass. It's kind of funny. And this came out in 73, so it's wicked old school. But again, it looks great. It looks great. The quality of these movies are really good. When I was watching, especially Return of the Living Dead looks fantastic on DVD. I was almost thinking when I was watching it, man, I might not even need to buy a Blu-ray version of this movie because it looks so great. And it's kind of the case. I mean, these movies all look great. If I see them in passing somewhere, I'll probably snag them up. But these movies I only own on DVD. But these are really good quality DVDs. It's, when you buy DVDs, and again, I do buy DVDs here and there. I try to focus on just Blu-rays. But every now and then with DVDs, I'll snag them up. And the quality sometimes is all over the place. Sometimes you have, a DVD that is just a real standard kind of version and the transfer isn't very good. But then these are, I think it's kind of a standard version, but for whatever reason, the transfer is really good. And it looks great. The sound is great. I'm impressed. It's definitely some of the better older kind of DVDs that I have because it came out quite a few years ago. This set came out, in the early 2000s, so it's been out for a while, but it actually looks really good. But that being said, if I come across any of these movies, especially, well, really any of these movies, I probably would snag them up on Blu-ray because you can't beat it. You just can't. Anyway. But Frogs is from 1973, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So Frogs came out in 1972. This was a movie I definitely saw a lot as a kid. I remember this movie being on a lot of the late night horror shows, marathons. I remember seeing this movie a lot as a kid. My mom was, again, well, actually, about 2 years ago, my mom was actually on this channel, and she is the person that kind of got me into horror. And we used to watch a lot of these kinds of low budget creature feature monster movies, movies like Frogs. That was, we watched a lot of these kinds of trashy exploitation movies a lot as a kid. And I remember having, many, many times sitting on the couch with my mom with a big bowl of popcorn and watching this as a little kid. Just, hilarious. Yeah, and again, it's been a while since I've seen this. I saw this probably a dozen times at least when I was a kid. Again, the my earliest memory was seeing it on cable when I was a little kid, and then I think a few years after that, was getting a little bit older. Saw it in the '80s, of course, and I remember seeing this on VHS quite a few times. And this was like a movie that was on cable a lot back in the day. So it was great. I mean, it was such an amazing time because cable would show all kinds of whacked out, low budget horror exploitation movies. Tourist Trap, of course, probably being the biggest one. And that's when it comes to those movies in the exploitation world, horror exploitation movies, and slasher movies, Tourist Trap is my ultimate movie. I'm going to do a deep dive show on Tourist Trap. I think I'm going to watch Tourist Trap tonight again and do a deep dive video because I haven't done a deep dive video on it, and it's a masterpiece. So many memories of like seeing when it comes to like the low budget exploitation movies, but so many memories of seeing Tourist Trap. The Car was another one that I remember seeing as a kid a lot. Also, Dark Night of the Scarecrow, which was made for television, and technically Tourist Trap is a television movie. It was the first time I remember seeing any Dario Argento films. Suspiria, of course, and a slew of other of his other films. Also, it was the first. I have a real distinct memory of that time of seeing House by the Cemetery as a kid. Of course, directed by the master or maestro Lucio Fulci, who is my favorite horror director of all time. And I remember seeing that as a kid, and it was just so great. And then seeing the Evil Dead films, and seeing movies like Frog and Trilogy of Terror with Karen Black. I mean, just one movie after another. It was just a great time. And I remember seeing all of these movies with my mom. And Frogs was another one of those movies. Big time, like embedded in my, in my DNA, in my brain forever. So watching it now, and it had been when I bought this collection, again, I bought it many years ago. I know I've watched it once or twice since I've had it, and I've had it for a long time, but not a whole bunch of times. So watching it last night was the first time in, years. But there were a lot of things around it where I remembered certain things that happened in the story and in the movie that I remembered a lot about, and then also a lot of things that I totally forgot about. And it's great. It totally holds up. Totally holds up. What an amazing cast this movie has too. Of course, Ray Milland is in this film, which is amazing. I totally forgot that he was in this movie. He was such a big Hollywood actor at one point in his career. The Lost Weekend and 45, Dial M for Murder, The Uninvited. So many great movies that he did. Working with Hitchcock, iconic, iconic. There was a movie that I did a show on because about 2 months ago or so, my TV had broken and went smash smash on the ground. I had a friend over who came up for actually kind of moved back to Maine and stayed here at my place for a day or two. We did a little bit of partying and we were going to sit down to watch a movie. And I remember, when we were listening to music before, and I ended up grabbing a CD or something from my shelf where my TV is. I ended up knocking the TV off the wall or the table that it was on, the stand. And I was a little bit drunk, a little tipsy, and the TV freaking smashed. So during that time, I didn't have a TV for like fucking like a month. It was terrible. So I ended up finding this really cool YouTube channel, The Film Crypt, which is really good. I watched a shit ton of movies on this YouTube channel. Pretty good quality movies because generally I hate watching movies online, and I do I have done it because a lot of the times the quality sucks and what have you. So but I saw some really great movies, and there was a movie that I saw with Ray Milan, which I can't remember the name of it, but it was really good, and it was an old kind of exploitation movie. I think it was, yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but I did post it. But really, really good. And Ray, yeah, again, Ray Milan, especially when he was younger, he's a little bit older. This came out '73, so this came out, kind of in a little bit of the later part of his career. But when he was younger, 40s, 50s, and stuff, and all those things, he was, one of the busiest Hollywood actors, and one of the biggest Hollywood actors of the time. The other thing about this movie, or cast member, that I was just like, holy shit, I've totally forgot that he was in this movie, and that is the iconic Sam Elliott. He's like super young. He's got to be like, I don't know how old he is in Frogs, but I mean, I'd say he's definitely, probably in his like early 20s. I love Sam Elliott. I mean, he's such an iconic figure as an actor. He's been in so many great movies, and he's still doing it. He's still going. He's 81, which is wild now. But he was in Frogs. It's got to be. I mean, Sam Elliott's always known for like the thick white mustache, the white hair. Just uber macho and just like great film presence, screen presence. And he is super young in Frogs. He's got like brown hair, not a touch of white or gray. He's got to be, I mean, I don't know how old he was when he was in Frogs, but it's got to be one of his first movies. He's super young. And it was funny when I was watching it, he's got Sam Elliott's got such a distinct way of how he acts, and then also the way he carries himself. And watching Frogs the other night or last night, I was like, wait, where do I? This guy looks so familiar, but I didn't know who it was. And I'm like, who is this guy? I know I've seen him before, but he's like really young. And then I looked up some info about Frogs, and I was like, oh shit, it is Sam Elliott, because I was suspecting that's who it was. And again, yeah, I mean, you can't love movies and not love Sam Elliott at the same time. I mean, he's just great. He was in so many great movies. Uh, the original Roadhouse. He was in Tombstone. Um, he was also in The Big Lebowski. I mean, just so many great films. So many great films. So many different kinds of films too. And also, the other real big surprise in this movie was Joan Van Ark, which I was like, holy shit, okay. She was an actress that I used to see all the time again as a kid because my mom was way into some of those really terrible soap opera television shows, and I used to watch them with her. Every once a week there were a few, like, it was during the time when like soap operas like, well, Days of Our Lives, and then like Dallas was another one. My mom, my mom's favorite show was Knots Landing. Also, another show we used to watch was Little House on the Prairie. Pretty funny watching those things and then watching like gruesome slasher movies together. But that's how we were as a family. And Knots Landing was one of those. Well, I'd say in the '80s, Knots Landing was like the biggest television, soap opera show. Total shit and garbage, but hilarious. And my mom was obsessed with the show. We used to watch it all the time. And Joan Van Ark was one of the leads in that movie. So it was a trip. I was like, no shit, okay. That's where I know her from. Also, Nicholas Courtland is in this film, and he, again, super awesome character actor. Looked kind of familiar, but he was in a lot of great movies too. Bear Island in '79, The Day of the Locust, which is a really cool movie. Bonnie's Kids. He's great in this movie in Frogs. He's like one of my favorite actors. And it's funny, like when I said, kind of the beginning of the show, talking about frogs, on how when you look up this movie, it's kind of labeled as like an eco horror film, and it's essentially about this, well, kind of an end of the world scenario. But the basic premise is like these frogs. There's some kind of like environmental catastrophe that happens that causes these frogs to have this weird mutation, and they emit these kinds of like gases, and so it ends up affecting all of the other animals, basically all of the reptilian animals, snakes and alligators, to where they become really, really aggressive, and they're on a mission to kill every human being that they see. And that's the basic premise of the movie. And it just gets worse and worse. And they notice a lot of the characters are like the setup of the story, and as the story goes, they notice that, it takes place in this, the location kind of takes place at this house, but it's like surrounded by this very kind of swampy environment. And as the story goes, they start noticing there's like more and more frogs and these reptilians and things popping up, and especially the frogs. And before you know it, the whole area is overrun by these different animals and tons of snakes. And they get really aggressive, and they just basically attack people. And it's the kills in this movie are actually really good. There's one scene in the movie in particular where Sam Elliott's character is walking through this kind of wooded area, this swampy area, and he finds this dead body. And it's pretty gruesome, and it's pretty horrific. This movie it's pretty icky. The kills are really good. The practical effects are really awesome. It has really great atmosphere, which again, at the end of the day, that's really my only requirement as a film fan. Film fan is just, I if I have good atmosphere, I'm probably gonna really love this movie, even if it's not the best directed movie. The actors are not particularly that great. I'm not very picky. I'm not very picky. So, but this movie has obviously, like I said, talking about the cast is phenomenal. The story's pretty good. It's pretty funny, and it's super cheesy. It's super low budget. I love this movie. Is so '70s, which I love, 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 love. But it's got great atmosphere. And the kills, that scene where Sam Elliott's character comes across this body, is pretty gruesome, and the practical effects are pretty creepy. Generally, like it kind of got under my skin. This movie is very icky too. If you don't like spiders or snakes, alligators, frogs, things like that, you probably won't like this movie. I have a thing about snakes. I don't like snakes very much. Snakes bother me, and there's a lot of scenes where there's a lot of snakes basically attacking bodies, killing people, poisoning people, all those, all the good things you want to see in a good family movie. And those scenes got to me. I have a pretty high threshold for violence and, obscenity and what have you, or obscene, scenes in a film. But this movie, because I do have this weird kind of thing about snakes, I like, even if I see a garden snake, it freaks me out. It like it freaks me out. There were moments and times in this movie where I felt like, ugh, like it's pretty icky. It's pretty icky. It's pretty gory too. There's a scene too. There's a lot of leeches in this movie, which is another thing that I'm not a big fan of. And there's a scene where a woman gets covered in these leeches, and she's like covered in blood. It's pretty gruesome. And when I think it is a pretty gruesome movie, and when I think too, when I saw this as a kid, that this movie was on cable back then, especially when, you know, any movie that was on cable was only shown with, they had to fit in the strict ratings that they had for television. This movie got away with a lot, considering. I don't remember this. There were, some of those movies that I saw were edited for television, and then some weren't. It depended. I think it depended if you saw it on like a regular, network station at the time. You had NBC, CBS, and then HBO, and then there was USA. USA, I remember, would show all kinds of great horror movies like this. I can't remember if they edited their movies or not. They might have, though. But to think that this movie was on cable and it was on all the time, it's kind of a creepy movie. It's kind of like the kills are pretty creepy. In some ways, it almost gets under my skin a little bit more than some of the slasher movies that I deeply, deeply love, which is my favorite genre. It's interesting. Frogs was, again, it came out in 73 and it was directed by George McCowan, who, offhand, I don't really know much about him. But he was a pretty prolific director. He directed the Magnificent Seven ride in 72. That's wild. I didn't know that he directed that. Shadows of the Hawk he also directed in 79. H.G. Wells' The Shape of Things to Come. Lots of really interesting looking 70s movies. Looking up George McCowan, none of these movies I don't think I've seen. The Magnificent Seven I have. Oh, yeah, super cool. The Over the Hill Gang in 70. Murder on Flight 502 in 75. The Love War in 1970. Face Off 71. Black Brigade, Carter's Army in 1970. Run Simon Run in 1970. I definitely want to check out these movies. If Tomorrow Comes in 71, and Return to Fantasy Island, based on the television show. I've seen that. I remember that. Speaking of television shows. But Frogs is awesome. It's really, really good. The transfer of this movie on DVD is really great. And it's a very old DVD collection, but really, really great. Super fun. Total 70s trash. Yeah. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Peace.